An awkward small yard can feel limiting at first, but thoughtful layout choices can reveal much more usable space than you might expect. From diagonal paths and layered borders to vertical planting and carefully placed focal points, small adjustments can change how the garden flows and how spacious it appears. Today, we're exploring practical tiny garden ideas that make every corner work harder without feeling crowded. A diagonal path can completely change how a cramped yard is read. Instead of moving straight from one end to the other, the eye follows a longer route which stretches the space visually. Gravel works especially well here because it feels light and informal, and its soft texture contrasts nicely with compact paving, clipped edging, or low planting along the sides. Placement matters just as much as material. Keep the path narrow enough to save room, but wide enough for comfortable walking, then flank it with restrained planting rather than bulky shrubs. A few airy grasses or mounded perennials help soften the line without swallowing it. Even in a modest budget garden, that angled movement introduces structure and a more generous sense of proportion. Tucking seating into a corner is a smart answer for a yard that feels awkward or fragmented. A built-in bench keeps the footprint compact, and using timber, rendered masonry, or simple slatted wood helps the nook feel rooted to the garden rather than dropped into it. Cushions in muted earth tones or faded greens keep the arrangement settled and visually calm. Next, think about how the seat meets the rest of the layout. Leave open ground in the center, then soften the nook with herbs, flowering climbers, or a tall container nearby. In the late afternoon, a corner like this can feel wonderfully sheltered, especially when leaves rustle overhead and the scent of rosemary or thyme lingers close to where you sit. When planting stays around the perimeter, a small yard immediately feels more organized. The trick is to arrange growth by height and texture, low ground covers near the path, rounded perennials in the middle, and upright plants toward the fence. That sequence lets each layer remain visible, while also giving the borders fullness without pushing greenery into the usable center. Color can do quiet work here as well. Repeating greens with touches of soft white, lavender, or pale yellow prevents the border from becoming visually noisy. Maintenance stays easier too, since plants are grouped in one zone instead of scattered everywhere. Watering, pruning, and mulching become simpler, and the clean middle section keeps the layout readable from every angle. A staggered stepping stone route brings rhythm into an oddly shaped yard. Because the stones do not march in a rigid line, the garden feels more relaxed and visually deeper. Natural stone, weathered concrete, or even oversized pavers with gravel joints can all work well. The slight shifts in placement guide the body gently while encouraging the eye to wander. Budget-wise, this is also a practical layout move. Fewer stones are needed than for a full paved walk, and the spaces between them can be filled with gravel, thyme, or low mossy planting, depending on climate. Keep the spacing comfortable for walking and resist overfilling nearby beds. Too much planting near the root can make a small garden feel tight rather than inviting. Dividing a small yard into two narrow garden rooms may sound counterintuitive, yet it often improves flow. One zone might hold a small dining spot, while another supports planting or a quiet seat. The separation does not need walls. A shift from gravel to brick or from paving to ground cover is often enough to define use while keeping sightlines open. Moving to the practical side, this approach helps homeowners organize awkward dimensions without forcing everything into one crowded area. Keep transitions subtle and aligned with circulation, so each zone feels connected rather than cut off. Repeating one material, such as the same edging stone or timber trim, ties both spaces together and prevents the design from becoming overly busy. Pulling planting beds slightly away from the fence is a clever optical move. That slim strip of visible ground behind the border loosens the edge of the garden and prevents the boundary from feeling heavy. Gravel, mulch, or low creeping plants can occupy the gap, depending on the style you want. The result is lighter, more breathable, and less boxed in. Plant choice becomes especially important in this layout. Use forms that show distinct silhouettes, such as fountain grasses, slender salvias, or rounded shrubs, so each layer reads clearly from the center of the yard. A narrow irrigation line hidden under mulch can make upkeep easier. Because air moves more freely around the planting, Many gardens also stay tidier after rain. A curved pocket garden is ideal when one corner feels harsh, leftover, or difficult to furnish. Replacing a sharp angle with a gentle planting curve softens the geometry immediately. Stone edging, rust-toned steel, or brick can all define the shape, while feathery foliage and mounded flowers keep the composition fluid. Curves also help disguise irregular property lines without drawing attention to them. There is something especially restful about a rounded garden edge. Morning light tends to slide more softly across curved planting beds, and the layered foliage catches shadow in a gentler way than stiff angles do. For homeowners who want a yard that feels settled rather than overly formal, this kind of corner treatment often introduces a sense of ease almost without trying. In a tiny yard, using the wall plane is often more effective than widening the beds. Slim trellises, narrow espaliered plants, and wall-mounted containers let greenery rise upward without taking over the ground. Materials matter here. Dark metal can feel crisp and refined, while timber lattice reads warmer and softer. Either way, the vertical layer gives the garden extra dimension. Next, balance that height with restraint below. Keep the base planting simple, perhaps with one neat row of low foliage or a gravel strip that keeps maintenance straightforward. Climbers should be chosen with scale in mind. Overly vigorous vines can quickly overwhelm a small space. With careful pruning, the wall becomes a living backdrop instead of a tangled focal point. Leaving the center open is one of the most reliable ways to make a small yard function well. Whether the middle is finished in gravel, compact lawn, or simple paving, that uncluttered area gives the eye a resting point. Borders around the edge can then hold the richer textures, stronger color, and denser planting without making the whole space feel overloaded. From a practical standpoint, an open center also improves flexibility. It leaves room for circulation, casual seating, container rearrangement, or even seasonal decorating without forcing a redesign. Strong edge definition helps most here, so use clean lines where paving meets planting. When the perimeter is well composed, the central emptiness feels intentional and refined rather than unfinished. A focal point placed at the far end of the yard draws attention outward and subtly exaggerates distance. A large urn, a sculptural shrub, or a small multi-stem tree can all serve the purpose, especially when framed by planting on either side. The key is to choose one feature with enough visual weight to anchor the view without dominating the whole composition. When done well, that destination gives the garden a quiet sense of invitation. You glance outward, follow the path or open view, and the space feels deeper than it really is. Evening light often catches a pale planter or textured trunk beautifully, and that far corner emphasis can lend a small yard a composed, lingering quality that feels pleasant long after sunset. A tiny garden does not need extra square footage to feel open, comfortable, and beautifully organized. Strategic pathways, uncluttered centers, layered planting, vertical greenery, and well-positioned focal points can all help awkward spaces feel more balanced and enjoyable. If these ideas inspired your own garden plans, please like the video, subscribe to Rustic and Rooted, and share your favorite idea in the comments.